Welcome to the Mountain Wizard podcast, where I'll be talking about the Brawl of the Wild. But first, a message from our only sponsor, Mountain Wizard, where you can buy magical Montana merch themed around the state of Montana, and wizards, where you can get either just state themed stuff, wizard themed stuff, and a mixture of Montana and fantasy. Right now, we are dealing with our Montana Horror Series, where it deals with Montana cryptids and any other type of horror-themed monsters that you can find around in the state of Montana. Right now, my more favorite one that I kind of have eyed is the Cave Dweller t-shirt, which more goes around the caves in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. Not really that there is cave dwellers. Well, there might be. Who knows, being one of the deepest cave systems in the entire United States. But going back to our main topic, the Brawl of the Wild. I have been kind of a little bit stalling on this topic, mainly because of the outcome that has happened in the last year. There's still some little sore feelings felt around this topic, so it was a little bit hard to try to figure out a way to talk around it and stuff. I guess going more for my experience and more explaining what it is. The Brawl of the Wild is the two main universities of the state battling each other in all sports. The major focus is the football one, which I guess is the state's major sport. Even with that, I still more enjoy watching that than more of the other Brawl of the Wilds, mainly because the two main sports that would revolve around the state of Montana are football and basketball. Basketball, on the other hand, is a little bit on the downside with both universities and stuff, where you don't get that home state feeling when you don't have anyone from home playing for you. That was kind of the aspect of it. You see the top players and stuff, either they have made a history in the state of Montana or they are from the state of Montana. And that's more the aspect of why the Brawl of the Wild is so focused mainly on football and stuff. But the Brawl of the Wild is basically the Brawl of the Wild. Two of the wildest colleges in the entire United States are battling for victory in any sport. Doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, volleyball, rugby, hockey, all the above. Any sport that either team are playing each other in is a Brawl of the Wild. But the main focus is the football one, which goes back to, last year was more of a historic thing where there was a second Brawl of the Wild. And it hasn't happened for quite some time since the beginning of when you used to play twice and it was a different league. But this is the first time ever that either team has actually met each other in the national championship, which was a very historic feat. Even after that, the odds of it happening again are very low unless there's a little bit of manipulation within the whole conference itself. Or I shouldn't say the conference, the whole national championship. Mainly because there's a possibility of that even happening again, just because of manipulation stuff at the higher ups, because it's made them probably the most money in the history of the program. I think there was also some other broken records within that, which was kind of interesting and stuff. But going back to the growing up and stuff, in the early 2000s and stuff, the Grizz were always kind of the top guy and stuff like that. They were the school to beat, and it was the wealthy versus the farmers, basically. Grizz being the wealthy and the farmers being the Bobcats. I still remember growing up and talking, for some reason, me personally, all my friends are Grizz fans, and except for the ones that I went to college with, mainly because I went to college at MSU. Mainly because both my parents went to MSU. And even with that, one of the second places I kind of grew up was in the Missoula area, mainly because we sold cars for my family and stuff, so we'd go pick up cars, and that was the place where you picked up new cars. And my mom has always said, I'm surprised we didn't at least do or get one Grizz fan and stuff like that, because we were always in Missoula all the time. Even visiting with a few of my friends and stuff growing up, I remember one distinct conversation and stuff, and one of my friends who was a Grizz fan said, don't call Montana State Montana. I was like, why not? Because, there's an honorary pact that neither school can claim the name Montana because we're both Montana and stuff. It comes a year later and stuff, and all of a sudden the University of Montana starts saying, oh yeah, we're Montana, we're not the University of Montana anymore. And I asked him about that, and he said, well, it sucks to suck. And yeah, that was the kind of, even not just him and my experience and stuff, but the University of Montana started to go a different route where they saw Montana State had all these very, very, Montana State had a drinking problem at one point, and it used to be like the number one drinking college in the entire nation. So you get a lot of people who are not going to back down from a fight and going to be pretty rough, rowdy, and don't care what they say. That has since changed and stuff now that they're on more the winning side and stuff. But the University of Montana kind of got that, wanted more of that rougher feel to things. So they started getting from a crowd that was kind of the bad guy kind of rap, where doesn't matter what you say, if you get a rough and rowdy person and stuff, you can say whatever you want and the university will back you and we won't kick you out of the stadium for it. And right now, both universities, the University of Montana has learned, especially after the last year's little public incident with their fans and stuff, harassing students and kids and stuff, that they want to go a different route, and I don't blame them. To gain a more respectable route, you do want respectable fans and stuff, which is a good thing, and it's what both the universities have kind of are trying to go away from. Montana State went away from that quite a while ago when they started being known as the drinking capital, and then you get all the rich people who saw the state of Bozeman, or the town of Bozeman in Montana, being a destination for living in the mountains and stuff. Which, it's changed quite a bit, and whether if it has money or not, both universities have quite a bit of money being poured into them, whether it's tourism, locals, stuff like that. The University of Montana now has the Montana Knife Company, which, as a local, is a little bit hard to see how successful they are. They seem successful. I just don't know how successful they are. And sponsoring a whole stadium and stuff, where a lot of the sponsors have kind of pulled away from, is a huge mark. And it will be really good to see what the heck kind of comes out of it. Montana State, I'm trying to remember a little bit of their sponsors and stuff, but right now they are doing fantastic and stuff. They've got quite a bit of locals stuff. I know they had Kenyon Noble and stuff like that always are sponsoring them, and they never seem like too big of a place, but the last few years, seeing how much Bozeman has grown and stuff, they've probably made quite a bit of money. So both universities are filling out pretty well. Right now, Montana State is kind of taking the uptick of being the more popular, being the more invested in. Even now, they have the debate of whether expanding because they sell out immediately on tickets. Whereas I think the University of Montana, going to a game was like their last year, I think mid through the season, was their first game they sold out on tickets. Which kind of surprised me because I thought they sold out when I was a little bit younger and stuff, and they were a little bit more on top of things than MSU, but even regardless, that game I went to, they said they sold out, but half the seats were empty, which was also a little bit surprising at the same time. Even with that, yes, I went to college at MSU, but I still have family playing for the University of Montana too. So I almost wish that they would do a little bit better than the Montana State, at least for these last years that he's playing for them. But we'll have to see. I know they have to rebuild a whole program. Whether if they kind of rely on what they already have, I'm hoping they do, so they don't have to start completely from scratch. But semi-new coach, and semi meaning he coached in a previous position and went up. And I know they've lost quite a few players this last year. So they're kind of in a rebuilding state, and who knows, they might be really good this year. I know last year the Cats were considered in a rebuilding state, and they made it all the way to they made history and they made it to the championship, which was great. So it could go either way and stuff. I know the Grizz have both their program and kind of their pride now to rebuild, just because of what transpired last year. Even just visiting with some of the fans and stuff, I hear more Grizz fans griping and groaning about the historic wins and stuff the Cats did, more than the Cats actually bragging about what they won last year, which is a little bit backwards and stuff to me, because you would think if you would win, you'd be celebrating that more than someone who lost. But like I said, I also have talked to a lot more Grizz fans, but with all the Bobcats fans, I don't think I've heard too many people mention the championship win since, I think, what was it, February. But I've heard Grizz fans constantly complaining about the win for since last week. And it's not just because my wife is also a very Grizz fan and stuff like that, but she doesn't talk about it too often either. And she seems fairly neutral until you bring up the conversation stuff, which I was thinking about having her talk on the other side of this, but visiting a little bit with her and quizzing her on it, she wasn't too ready to have this conversation and stuff. Or I shouldn't say, she'd keep a cool head. Even a lot of people listening to this and stuff, if they're a Grizz fan, they'll probably gripe and groan over this whole conversation of what the heck happened. But I'm trying to stay as neutral as I possibly can. Last year I did go to more Grizz games than Bobcat games, which is also kind of funny. Even seeing that the Grizz could have won last year if they probably gotten rid of a whole lot of stuff. And what I mean by that is their focus was so much on legacy that it got in the way of a lot of things. Their quarterback, for example, is a legacy player where his dad played. He is a great player, but at the same time, he doesn't have the heart of the game. He's playing for more his dad's sake than the team's sake, which hinders a lot of the playing and stuff. Even watching the backup quarterback and was it second string and third string quarterback, both of them, every time they got in, they actually had more easy touchdowns and stuff than their first string quarterback, which is an indicator that, he should probably be a second string or even a third string. He's a great player, but he doesn't have the heart of the team. And I've been in that position too as well, where you have a parent that expects everything from you, so you play for your parent, you don't play for the team. I learned that when I was in junior high and stuff, when my parents tried to get me to play every single sport and stuff. So it's very easy to see that. Going back to their coach, I'm trying not to mix up the Bobbies, which it seems like the University of Montana has a lot of Bobbies. He probably shouldn't have ended where he's ended. He probably should have stayed at least one more year and tried to fix his mistakes rather than leaving so fast. Whether if it was the university telling him to leave or what. And this kind of goes with the pride thing where he left and then immediately joined another team and stuff, kind of says, yeah, it's not a good team to play with. Says something else. And that's more what I meant on the rebuild on pride thing, is their whole team has lost about everything that they were prideful of last year, which means emotionally the team and the fans are going to have a tough time kind of rebuilding themselves. He should have probably stayed at least one more year, rebuilt some stuff, or at least got rid of the pain that kind of came with the losing the second Brawl of the Wild and what was the other historic thing? Losing. It was just mainly the historic Brawl of the Wild was the one thing. But when you bring back a historic coach like the way he was, you need to change some things. You don't do what you do. You need to be flexible and change the way you do things. Not the way you coach, but by your plays and stuff. And it makes it very easy to read what a coach is going to do. Talking about more of the cats and stuff. The cats have, well, I'll talk about both. Both have been doing great in the sense that they're both putting star Montana athletes out there and not just recruiting just for the sake of getting a good player. For a Montana school, that is what hinders you most, is recruiting just to recruit a good player. Most of MSU and the U of M's players, or best players, have always come from in the state of Montana. Whether if it's a rough farmer or just a good player and stuff, that always seems to be the answer to victory in the entire state of Montana, is recruit local and you're going to do great. The only time you would recruit outwards would be if you have absolutely no one you can choose from that's inside. And I'm not just trying to be biased towards in-state people to out-of-state people and stuff. The little Montana bias where we now hate everyone that's not from the state of Montana anymore. It comes with going to the basketball stuff. There's no one really in-state playing for them, maybe like one or two players. It's a little bit why the lower division schools are basketball has become more popular than the upper division, is because they actually have local people that people can relate to and enjoy. Because even in high school, we had a really good basketball player. His name was like Keely Bake and stuff, and we're surprised that he didn't go to the University of Montana or MSU. He ended up going to Tech, and man, those games are a lot more interesting to watch than the MSU or the University of Montana. Granted, I know the University of Montana had that scandal where they were recruiting people from California to move to Malta, and then they'd recruit them to play at the University of Montana just so that their team would do well with like their daughters or whatever it went. But yeah, it got it to where almost no one watches them. I remember going to a University of Montana basketball game, and it was the University versus Gonzaga, and 90% of the gym, it was their most packed gym for women's basketball, but 90% of the gym was cheering for Gonzaga, mainly because Jill Barta was playing for Gonzaga at the time. And that kind of shows, if you want to have a successful sporting anything in the state of Montana, you need to recruit locally. You need to get locals on your side, so you got to recruit locally with people that they know. No one's going to come to see someone from California just constantly winning stuff, even if it is winning for the team and stuff. It's great to do it for a college student that doesn't know it, but for the state of Montana, it just doesn't do well. But for both teams, at least in football this year, the best thing to do is the Cats can keep doing what they're doing. Don't get an inflated head, which I've seen a lot of them taking social media oaths where they're just not doing social media for the entire season, which is good. And I shouldn't say don't change anything. You want to add new plays. You want to do stuff. Don't change coaching. Don't change your attitude towards the game, stuff like that. Keep everything you did last year and do well. The University of Montana would be quit relying solely on legacy stuff. Yes, it's good to keep some of that stuff, but it's going to burn you in the long run. Well, it already has burnt them, and this is their rebuilding year, and hopefully they've learned from that. And I'm not saying get rid of their number one quarterback, but maybe make him second string or third string and make some of those other players a lot more or play a lot more, because they did a lot more work last year than the first string ever did, and they kind of just lost it after that. But they could have actually won the second Brawl of the Wild if they did not play him as much as they did. If they played any of their second string or third string and stuff like that, they would have probably won the second Brawl of the Wild, and probably it would have been the complete opposite game. But yeah, and I am gonna go and enjoy a bowl of frozen flathead cherries, because I learned if you freeze them, you can actually bite into them and they're not hard. They're nice and soft. So they're just like an ice pop, but with a pit in them. I'll have to deep hit them next time I make them, because we just try and preserve them as much as we can, because we got a whole box sent to us from the Flathead. But yeah, if you have any questions on kind of what I experience and stuff, don't be afraid to comment on any of the social media channels. This will be released the Sunday before any of the games start. So leave any comments, and I'll add a second Brawl of the Wild chat. But yeah, don't forget to stop at Mountain Wizard, whether if it's you're buying Montana stuff. We've even made Montana hats, a little MT on them, in all colors and stuff. We've made some for Grizz fans, some for Bobcat fans. Quite a few people have worn them to games and stuff. So if you see a MT hat at any of those games, don't be afraid to take a picture at the game and stuff, and tag Mountain Wizard or Montana Wizard in the post. So with that, what to do, everyone stay cool these next few days. Stay away from the fires and stay indoors, and just enjoy and be healthy and safe. So, all right, thank you.